So welcome to Strange Paths, a podcast where we read Choose Your Own Adventure style stories. We're your hosts. I'm Paul.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Megan.
I'm Stephanie.
And this week, I have a story for us.
He did it.
Forever in the making, I have a story for
He
us.
gave birth to a new child.
Yep.
Wow.
And now you have to deal with all the afterbirth.
Yes, it's
All right.
It's a nightmare.
I want some placenta and what is it called? Like the first breast milk that comes out? Like
Ew.
colostrum or something? That's like
Yeah, something like
super like nutrient
Super high
dense.
cholesterol.
Someone
I
said
don't
if you
know,
put it
Megan.
on wounds, like your wound will heal really fast, and I want it.
Oh.
Something
cool.
I don't know. I
So is
probably
that
need
what
to
Wolverine's covered in?
Yeah.
Breast milk all over him. He's just like constantly hunting new mothers.
Yeah.
He's like, have you breastfed yet? No? Good. Good. It's like lurking at hospitals.
I could have
Got
my
a
facts
special
wrong.
got a special can of coins for him when he comes in.
Well, I just like to think, like, he's been wounded and he's lying on the ground. He doesn't have any, and, like, a woman walks over and, like, pulls out her breast and, like, squeezes it on him. And then he's, like, magically heal.
He just like waits for like shrieking women, like follows them around, just waiting.
Well, he has to keep up the shrieking because that helps make sure that they're producing more milk.
He can cry like a baby to make it happen. He'll just follow you long enough.
So wait, in this scenario, is it just breast milk in general, or just the first part?
The first one.
Well,
He's got to be at a hospital
yeah,
or
yeah.
at a birthing center. Or
So,
else in a ditch, everywhere. In taxi cabs, he's everywhere.
Yeah. So whenever something goes bad for the X-Men, he's like, is there a hospital within a few miles? I can't do it.
Oh, maybe since he joined the X-Men, they built a facility where they keep...
Oh, they keep him
it-
on the jet.
What?
Like they have a mobile hospital on the jet that they are constantly
Yeah.
allowing new mothers
Yeah, they
into.
just farm them in.
Right,
Like, they pay them, for their service.
right.
I don't want to give birth near X-Men. You know something's gonna happen.
You
That's
just,
racist.
I mean, it's fine. Like, can't you just collect it? This is horrible. The first 15 minutes of our podcast is talking about this.
Yeah. All right, I guess we can talk
Is
about
this related to
story
your story?
then. Not at all.
Oh, I like where this story's going.
I'm sorry.
Maybe I should
I'm
write this
sorry.
idea down.
Okay, so my story is called Saint George and the Dragon.
Oh, an artistic story, huh?
And I have a little bit of backstory
You
for
wrote a
my story.
prequel?
No, I didn't write a prequel, but I want to kind of front load the idea behind the story. It won't spoil anything for the story, but I do have cover art for this story.
What?
Oh,
Oh.
oh God.
Oh, isn't this that picture that you wanted?
Yeah, so a few months ago now, I think, there's an artist named Brandon Bird who made a fake Choose Your Own Adventure book cover.
Wait, so you based your story off of his illustration?
Yes.
Oh, we're going to have to tag him or something.
Yeah. But it was a Choose Your Own Adventure story involving Frasier. So the cover...
Crane.
Frasier Crane, yes. So the cover is Frasier Crane, his brother Niles with like a big floppy wizard hat on.
It's just perched on top of his head. It's not even
Yeah.
on.
And then in the foreground, you have what appears to me to be St. George and the Dragon.
He was a knight.
St.
He's not
George was a
saint.
knight.
Was he?
Yes.
I don't know. Well, I am very excited. Holy crap. We'll have to post this picture. I don't have to do anything for this one. I'll just post this and slap the Strange Paths on it.
Is that a good idea?
No, it's
No.
not. It's terrible.
Okay.
No. In fact, like the main reason I wrote this was because I'm pretty sure I sent this to you guys whenever I found it. And I was like, I need to find this book. And I was a little sad to find out it wasn't actually a book. So I decided to write a story for it instead.
I'm sure
Right.
he'll be very excited. I can't believe this.
And if he's not Screw you.
Yeah, you idiot. We hate you.
Yeah.
Oh, we love you. I'm sorry. Anybody who makes like Frasier fan art like this is good.
In any case, we can get started. Title card, Water Walk. A phone rings on the 19th floor in an upscale condo. Nearby, a silver-haired man sits comfortably in an old green recliner, a jarring juxtaposition to the rest of the meticulously procured decor in his immediate surroundings.
Megan, do you watch Frasier?
Not actively, but I have watched a lot of episodes.
Okay.
It's been a while, but I am familiar.
Okay.
I did think about the fact while I was writing this that I was like, I'm making our audience fit a very small niche.
Yeah. You gotta love Frasier to like this episode.
Also,
It'll
like,
help.
Steven and I have been watching Cheers, and he's like on Cheers.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Did that come before
Yeah.
Frasier?
Yeah.
I'm
It
assuming.
came before.
Okay.
Like, Frasier was actually a spin-off show.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Outside, the balcony is being pelted with a steady sheet of water, while inside the sound of the rain is drowned out by the television where a football game is currently being broadcast. A few moments later, the shrill ringing tones of a phone nearby join the sounds of the television, combining to a swell the man finds hard to ignore. Managing to take his eyes away from the game, Martin mutes the television, sets down his can of Ballantines, and picks up the phone on the counter behind his chair. "Hello, Crane residence," he answers brusquely, doing little to mask his annoyance at being interrupted when he finally has the condo to himself. "Oh, hey, Niles." "No, Frasier left here about an hour ago." "Yeah, I thought maybe he should stay in since it's been raining so much, but it's just been so long since he's gone out, you know?" "No, he still won't talk about what happened at the station. I think the suspension really got to him. Daphne says he didn't even request a blend when she offered to draw a bath for him."
And a hint of Tahitian vanilla. This is going to be a lot of Frasier references that are very deep in.
"No, Niles, I'm not calling my friends at the station to pick him up. He's fine, he just needed some fresh air." "Sorry, Niles, he didn't say where he was going, but you know Frasier. I'm sure you could find him in no time." On the other end of the line, Niles thanks his father while reaching into the breast pocket of his suit jacket to pull out a handkerchief. He wipes the phone receiver thoroughly before hanging up. While gathering his overcoat, he tries to think of the most likely places Frasier would have gone after his ordeal and subsequent suspension. Within a few moments, he has 3 places in mind to try out. Where should he go first? If you think Niles should check out the wine club, turn to page 2. If you think Niles should try the radio station KACL, turn to page 6. If you think Cafe Nervosa is where he should go, then turn to page 4.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So,
I want to go to the
Frasier.
cafe.
Yeah, something bad has happened. I feel like he would go to his little nest.
Okay. Title card. Sanctuary.
You like about the little like black cards that say okay.
Niles walks into Cafe Nervosa, a common spot for the Cranes, and just where a certain someone who is lamenting their poor job performance might go, since it is right across the street from KACL. Niles heads to the counter, pushing past the filled tables. "My usual, please," Niles says to the barista, manning the register. Yeah, pal, and that is?" replies the barista, sounding annoyed. "Non-fat double decaf latte," Niles responds with a sigh. Perusing the room, Niles finds a small group near the window, each of the 3 of them minding their own business behind a newspaper. Perhaps Frasier is trying to be incognito. Seeing an open seat at their table, Niles steps over and wipes off the chair before sitting down. As he does, the other 3 put down their newspapers. Niles notices that none of them are Frasier.
He notices right off the bat.
"So, a newcomer to our ragtag party, eh? This one looks to be a wily rogue if I've ever seen one," says the largest of the 3 as he begins to laugh. "So it would seem. But what do we make of this newcomer? Is he a friend?" Another of the group, wearing wire-framed glasses, responds. The 3 men pause, seemingly waiting for Niles to respond. If Niles knows the passphrase, turn to page 7. Otherwise, turn to page 5.
Oh my god. What?
Well, it would seem our visitor is not a friend after all. says the one with glasses. What should we do about him? Responds the largest one as they turn to the remaining person at the table who has yet to say anything. The bearded gentleman looks Niles up and down before responding in a commanding voice. Leave, responds the last one.
Dang.
At this, the three stop talking and all begin to stare at Niles. After a minute, Niles begins to feel so awkward from the situation he unwittingly finds himself in. Before he realizes it, he's outside the coffee shop. Confused, Niles decides to continue his search for Frasier. If you haven't gone to the station, you can turn to page 6. Otherwise, turn to page 2.
All right, well, we haven't, so I guess we have to go to page 6.
Yeah.
Title card. Vanishing Smite.
Vanishing what?
Smite. Niles pulls his Mercedes into the station's parking garage. As he heads into the station, Niles notices that Frasier's space is not occupied by his BMW. Perhaps taking his own car would have been too conspicuous considering the current circumstances of his suspension. Nonetheless, he continues inside to see if there are any lingering signs of his brother. Within a few minutes, Niles finds Frasier's usual booth. Peering through the double-paned window, Niles sees another radio show host, the energetic and salacious Bulldog. At the moment, he appears to be yelling into the microphone while taking off his shirt. Perhaps to try to throw down, Niles mentally notes.
God.
Niles decides to see which engineer is helping today and hopes it's someone he knows. Oh good, it's Frasier's producer, Rose. Hi, Rose, Niles says as she turns around and takes off her headphones. Oh hey, Niles, responds Rose, sounding a little miffed. You wouldn't have happened to see Frasier, would you? Mean your idiot brother who got himself suspended, so I have to try to keep this animal in line? Rose says while pointing into the booth where Bulldog is currently on all fours on the desk and howling at the ceiling. The very same, Niles responds. You just missed him. He had the nerve to make me run down to the parking garage to bring him his briefcase. She begins to laugh. He looked like he was heading to a funeral wearing all black and sunglasses. Said he couldn't bear to have anyone see his shame. I see. Well, thanks for your help, Rose.
Oh my God. He's so weird. Like, he does talk like that, though.
Rose, are you serious, Niles? After all these years, it's Roz, yelled Roz.
I was so uncomfortable. I was like, oh my God, does he really think her name is Rose?
With that, Roz had shoved Niles out of the engineer's booth and slammed the door. Dusting off his jacket, Niles sees that he must continue his search for Frasier. Where should he try next? If you think Niles should go to Cafe Nervosa, turn to page 4. If you think he should go to the wine club, turn to page 2.
Yeah, I guess he should go to the wine club.
Yeah, wine club.
Yeah.
Title card. Grasping Vine.
That sounds sexual.
Upon entering the halls of the illustrious club, Niles is met by an assortment of smells ranging from old leather, books, cigars, and of course, wine.
Oh, so manly.
After handing his overcoat to the doorman, Niles begins to survey the room for signs of his brother. Unfortunately, no one seems overly inundated with conversation, but perhaps with Frasier's bad mood, he simply isn't very talkative. Taking a small key from the necklace hidden underneath his shirt, Niles opens a locked cabinet near the entrance to the main parlor. Donning the Corkmaster sash kept inside, Niles makes his way across the room to search its various nooks and crannies.
God.
After nearly half an hour of searching, Niles is ready to give up on finding his brother. His duties as Corkmaster have interrupted his search several times, as he's had to sample new arrivals of port, sign off on inventory updates, and fend off eager upstarts looking to rub elbows with leadership.
It's such a burden to be the cork master, you know?
It sounds like it.
Master of the cork. He knows which wine goes with Fisher pork.
Mm-hmm.
Megan, this is so much fun for you. You need to get caught up on the entirety of Frasier and then come back.
Just pause the podcast, go watch all 11 seasons.
Okay.
And then come back.
God, it's so stupid because like the Corkmaster thing, like they fought over it like like children, even though it was so stupid. We just got like a sash.
Mm-hmm. Fending off the last one by pretending he's received an important call, Niles takes a seat in the back corner where a couple of older members are talking low amongst themselves. As Niles lets the supple calfskin of the chair envelop him, he cannot help but hear the conversation nearby. It's all he talks about now. His little club. I tell you, he made me tell him a passphrase just to get in my own guest house the other night when they had their little party. On my own property. Tell me about it, an older gentleman replies. Despite having his back to the two of them, Niles instantly recognizes the second voice as none other than J. Chester Moofington, heir to the oversized toilet bowl fortune. Moofington had been a family friend of Niles's first wife, Maris, and Niles remembered Moofington often mentioning his son, who apparently spends his time gallivanting from one exclusive club to the next. From rumor alone, they carried an air of mystery and decadence. In any case, I've agreed to let William host his next gathering at my villa on the outskirts of town. Fortunately for me, though, I overheard the passphrase earlier this evening. Moofington finishes with a smirk.
Yes.
Well, what is it? The older woman replies. Melon, whispers Moofington, at a level Niles can barely hear.
Are you freaking kidding me? Isn't that the passphrase? What is that, from Lord of the Rings?
Yeah. To get into the minds of Moria.
Melon.
That's how it's spelled, yes.
Melon.
Niles begins to mull over his options with this newfound information. However, he still needs to find Fraser. If you think Niles should try KACL, turn to page 6. Otherwise, turn to page 4 to have Niles head to Cafe Nervosa.
All right, so I guess we know where we should go.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
This is a cafe.
So, to the cafe, you guys sit down with the three gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Niles is confused by their pleading faces. He gets up and starts to back away from the table when suddenly he bumps into someone right behind him. He hears the sound of the stranger's coffee cup hit the ground and turns to see a furious Fraser glaring at him.
What?
Niles?
We found him?
Fraser! I'm so glad I found you. I've been looking all over the city after talking to Dad this morning. From his description, it sounded like you needed a pick-me-up. Yes, well, I was trying to take care of that myself, Fraser mentions coolly while motioning to the spilled coffee covering the floor.
Oh, dang, he's in a bitchy mood.
Maybe an iced coffee, then? Niles says with a devilish grin.
Ooh.
Fraser's eyes widen, but he quickly becomes distracted once he spots the three men that Niles was just sitting with. Instead of continuing his scowl, Fraser's face begins to light up. He leans in close to whisper to Niles. Niles, do you realize who the bearded gentleman you were just sitting with is? That's William Moofington, the heir who's supposedly well-connected in many of Seattle's most exclusive clubs. The soirees he throws are the stuff of legend. Fraser grabs Niles by the shoulders. Did he speak to you? What did you say? Connecting the dots, Niles gently removes Fraser's hands one by one and motions for him to follow Niles over to the table where he abruptly sits. My brother Fraser and I are ready to join your party. He leans in close, trying to put on his best nonchalant posture. The three gentlemen eye him curiously. Melon, he whispers to the three, who erupt in a cheer. William reaches.
Just start screaming in the middle of the coffee shop?
William reaches into a nearby bag and pulls out 2 strips of cloth. All right, you two, our hideout is a bit of a secret, so we'll need you to don these masks if you wish to join our little adventure this evening. Niles and Fraser exchange glances, both aware that the eccentricities of Seattle's elite have no such boundaries as the common rabble. Seizing an opportunity, they each grab a blindfold and put them on quickly.
It's just like they're prepared for it to get weird.
Basically.
Like, there's no limits here, guys.
All right. Title card, Vicious Mockery. After what feels like a rather long car ride to the outskirts of Seattle, Niles and Fraser arrive at their destination. Having been seated at a long table, the blindfolds are removed a few moments later. Fraser and Niles are struck by the opulence of the room, as well as the intricate inlays of the chairs. The ornate woodwork shows various runes as well as what appear to be skulls carved into the arms. As their eyes adjust to the candlelight, Fraser notices sheets of paper laid out in front of them. Carefully inscribed onto them are various numbers with labels indicating ability scores, proficiency bonuses, armor classes, and skills.
Oh my god, is this Dungeons and Dragons?
Fraser raises an eyebrow and looks over towards Niles, who has directed his attention to the head of the table. Following his lead, Fraser sees that the head of the table has been walled off by a makeshift screen, and William sits behind it in a heavy purple cloak.
Oh my god.
Across from them, the other two gentlemen from the coffee shop sit, also cloaked.
Why are they taking this so seriously? Doesn't need to go to this level. I feel like this is...
Greetings, adventurers, Williams begins. I'll be your dungeon master tonight, where the Guild of Copper and Salt has 2 new initiates to help them investigate the Church of the First Embers. These initiates were recently conscripted and should prove useful to solve the mystery of the stolen jewel known as the Lunar Fig.
Ugh.
As he
Got a
finished,
wasp in it?
it could.
I don't like that.
I hope it does.
Ugh.
As he finishes, the man in the glasses across the table from them begins to speak. Aye, well met, travelers. I understand ye two be joining up. What do you bring to our little outfit? Fraser and Niles exchange nervous glances. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't understand, Niles says aloud. The larger man touches his hand to his chest before speaking in what Fraser is sure is the worst Eastern European accent he's ever heard. Don't worry, darling. I'm sure you both have ample strength.
Did you just write that so nobody would judge you on how terrible your accent
No.
is?
The name's Caprica. Charmed, I'm sure.
Weren't these all men? He nodded yes for everyone, listening to a podcast right now.
As he finishes his sentence, he mimes holding out a hand towards Fraser and Niles. Niles, I think we may have made a mistake, Fraser addresses the others in the room. You see, tonight we were supposed to take our father out to dinner, and oh boy, look at the time. He'll be furious if we keep him waiting. We'll have to help you find the lunatic's lunar fig, Niles interjects. Right. Find the lunar fig some other time, says Fraser. Niles, for his part, is stifling laughter. Terribly sorry, my allergies. I can't believe we both forgot. Well, thank you for a lovely evening, says Niles, a smirk growing on his face as he reaches into his breast pocket to remove a couple of business cards. The two of them scoot their chairs back, which causes a rather loud squeak against the wood floor. Niles slides the business cards across the table. In case you need any help in the near future.
Oh, that's rude.
Fraser and Niles.
He's a psychiatrist. So.
Yeah. Fraser and Niles make their way out the door nearby, trying their best to ignore the befuddled and slightly disappointed looks of the 3 gentlemen they've left behind. As soon as they are outside, Niles calls for a cab, fighting fits of laughter as he gives them the address. What was that? Fraser asks with a tone of superiority. A meeting of ye old Mensa, if there ever was one, responds Niles as he laughs.
I mean, that's sarcastic, right?
Yes.
I mean, Dungeons and Dragons players are smart too, Paul.
I can't believe you gave them your card. Niles smiles wide enough to show most of his teeth.
Ugh.
Actually, I gave them yours.
That's too big. Ugh.
Nice.
Well, I was trying to think of, how would you describe someone doing that kind of, smile grimace sort of thing?
Yeah.
In any case.
I painted a picture, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Actually, I gave them yours, he says before taking a few steps back. You did what?
Oh my god.
Suddenly, a loud cough interrupts them, and the 2 Crane brothers turn to see William Moofington in the doorway, still wrapped in his cloak.
Aww.
I just wanted to make sure you guys knew the way out, he says disdainfully as he slams the door and locks them outside.
Oh.
For a moment, Fraser and Niles seem to have taken on a more demure posture. As the cab pulls up, Niles quips, I've conjured a means of travel for us. After you, says Fraser, with a stern drawl. Shortly after arriving back at his condo, Fraser wishes Niles well, and despite how the evening went, is glad to have a respite from the nagging thoughts of his own suspension. Getting ready for bed, he empties the pockets of his suit and finds a few scraps of paper. Fraser had accidentally taken the character sheets with him as he left Moofington's guest house.
Dang, he put a whole piece of paper in his pocket without noticing?
Unfolding the character sheet, Fraser examines its contents. Half-elf bard, Delmore, jack of all trades, bardic inspiration. Fraser absorbs the character's description and finds that it mirrors much of his own studies. The character was extremely intelligent, well studied at the Bard's College, and was known as a master of wit with the gift of the silver tongue. Getting into bed and turning off the bedside lamp, Fraser drifts off to sleep. However, by the next morning, Fraser was entranced, and despite initial thoughts of abstaining from this character, he found himself reading over Delmore's backstory during breakfast, making edits where necessary,
He's getting into it.
and continuing to
Right.
think about the game over the course of the day. By mid-afternoon, Fraser realized perhaps he had been too hasty to leave so abruptly the previous night. Maybe he could smooth things over with William and the other two. But how? Perhaps if I were to dress the part, I could show them my dedication to the character and they would let me back.
Oh my god. He's gonna dress up as a medieval bard.
Niles doesn't even have to know, Fraser says aloud. He knew of an upscale costume shop that would be able to accommodate him on short notice, but what about the incident at work? Surely the city is still bustling with news of his misdeed. Fraser starts to fret over it, but then a realization hits. He could wear a disguise to go to the costume shop.
Oh my god.
Putting a disguise together might take up valuable time, though. What should he do? If you think Fraser should put on a disguise before heading to the costume shop, go to page 3. Otherwise, go to page 11. Not
I want to know
everyone-
what disguise he would make. Yeah.
I just like the idea of having to wear a disguise to go to a costume shop. Yes, I want to know all about it.
All right.
All right, so we're going with the disguise. Okay. Title card. Alter self. A disguise would be necessary. If he were to be called out publicly, who knows how he might react in this fragile state. A few hours...
He's just gonna beat somebody to death for saying his name or something.
A few hours later, Fraser arrives at Seattle's finest costumery. With luck, Fraser had managed to procure a wig and sunglasses.
A wig.
The long, raven-haired wig had been thanks to his son Frederick's brief but horrible foray into going goth, a decision everyone agreed was terrible. Wearing them now, Fraser was sure that only his voice could give him away. As he looked through the aisles, the owner of the store stopped by to see if he needed any help.
Oh my god, I'm imagining that he looks like he's got a long black wig and sunglasses. Does he look like Tommy Wiseau right now?
Maybe.
Is he wearing a really big suit jacket and a black tank
belts.
top underneath?
Why, yes, hello, my name is Frizeau. Marty Frizeau.
Oh my god.
And I was wondering if you had anything to help me look like a minstrel, said Fraser.
Oh, you have to say it oh, my name is...
But of course, the shop owner replies quickly.
Lumiere?
Maybe. Before disappearing into the back of the shop. Upon his return, Fraser is already too wound up over the adventure to come and buys the costume sight unseen,
Whoa.
his mind already a blur of the possible adventure that lays ahead. With costume in tow, Fraser hails a cab to head to the outskirts of Seattle. The cab driver isn't particularly pleased that Fraser chooses to change in the back seat during the trip, but a larger tip seems to pacify him. Continue to page 14.
Just imagining the taxi driver is turning redder and redder, and then he kind of deflates when he gets the money.
Well, I just liked it because I think the trope is you have the girl changing in the
yeah.
back seat.
Instead, you have Tommy Wiseau changing the back.
You're going to see that ass.
Oh God,
Boiled.
no! It's just potatoes in skin.
All right. Title card. Plane shift. Walking up to the door he was so unceremoniously locked out of the night prior, Fraser starts to feel a little uneasy. However, his head afloat with the alterations he had made to his character's backstory this morning, he manages to find the courage to knock on the door. A few minutes later, the door opens, and the cloaked figure of his brother appears in the doorway.
That little bitch.
Niles is a surprise, especially given that he's sporting a long, floppy wizard's cap.
Oh, he got into it too. So they made him a card, like a character sheet that was based on his actual. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's thoughtful. How did they do that so quickly?
There's a long ride over. There are no plot holes in this whatsoever.
Yeah, there's no
all
plot
right?
holes, that's for sure. But how did they do it?
Niles! Yells Frasier. Frasier, what are you doing here? Niles says, instinctively trying to shoo him away from the doorway before anyone else can see. I merely came to return the character sheets I accidentally took with me last night, says Frasier, raising his voice and pushing back against Niles. DM? William asks as he rounds the corner. Oh, Frasier!
Wait, he's DMing?
Nice of you to join us. Did you have a change of heart? Frasier pushes his way in past Niles. Well, actually, yes. Yes, I did have a change of heart and would love to join in your game. Great! We could always use a new party member. And I'm sure Niles won't mind too much, will you, Niles? Well, actually, he'd be delighted, says Frasier, staring daggers at Niles. William shows Frasier to a seat at the table, as Niles returns to the end of the table, behind the makeshift screen hiding his notes.
Oh my god.
Frasier is just about to introduce himself as his character when Niles interrupts him. Well, in any case, the three of you were 4, says Frasier. Right.
Niles is such a brat.
Right. The 4...
I just don't, like, I imagine him, like, reading the character sheets, and then instead of, like, really getting into his own character, he probably just, like, wrote an entire campaign in one night. Is that what you're saying? That he's DMing now? It's freaking crazy. Those Crane boys, am I right?
Right. The 4 of you were being given a missive by the fairest Duchess of the land, Lady Daphne, whose eyes shine like the brightest beacons to guide the most wayward of sailors across an impassable sea, whose hair falls with grace and dignity well beyond her years, whose lips...
What?
Niles! Sorry. In any case, there are 2 great calamities plaguing her lands. To the east, there is tale of a great dragon that is kidnapping daughters in the night and threatens to burn any village that defies its wishes. To the west, within the deepest cave in the mountains, whispers of a frost wraith have made it to her lands. If left unchecked, local superstition has it the wraith's frozen tundra will stretch across the known world. You must choose the threat you wish to quell, for it will take all of you to hope to handle either. William sits back in his chair and looks to the others, who nod. Before speaking, he leans over and peeks at Frasier's character sheet laid out in front of him. Well, Delmore, he addresses Frasier, I think as the newest member of the Guild of Copper and Salt, you should have a say in our travels. After all, as a bard, you must have heard tale of one of these fiends.
Oh my god.
If you think if Frasier should... let me start that over. If you think he should... I cannot say. I need to stop doing alliteration in my stories. I'm fucking myself up. If you think Frasier should suggest fighting the dragon, turn to page 12. If you think fuck.
Leave all of
Leave
this
it in.
in.
Leave it in.
If you think he should suggest finding the lair of the frost wraith, turn to page 18.
Okay, but how many pickled peppers did Peter Pepper know? So we can go to, what was it?
So you guys can choose to try and face the dragon or the frost wraith.
I like Frost Wraith.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt a dragon. I want to put a saddle on him and give him treats and stuff.
Oh, he needs tweets.
He needs some treats and wubs. Is there a section where we can give him tweets and wubs?
Yeah. Tweets and wobs.
If there's not, I'm not going to do this podcast ever again.
Yeah.
This frost wraith seems like a cool customer indeed. I say we show this beast what a little salt can do, Frasier announces to a mixed reaction from the rest of the party.
You going to make ice cream with him?
Yeah.
However, seeing that he's trying, they agree and begin their trek towards the mountainside caverns. Within a day's travel, the group reaches the icy slopes. Caprica, being a sorceress, uses a cantrip to light torches for the group so the party can search through the myriad branches of the cavern, delving deep into the rock and earth. Niles describes their journey, the growing stalactites of ice that threaten to crash down upon them, the slippery footholds as they walk treacherous paths, and the discarded bones littering the sides of the walkways. A few lucky dexterity checks later, they manage to make it into an open cavern with pillars of ice holding up the ceiling. "This may be a tough fight if I can't use fire," Caprica announces to the rest of the party. With her utterance, Niles announces that an icy form solidifies in the center, taking the shape of a giant goblin. After rolling for initiative, the group starts to fight against the Frost Wraith, trading blows until they gain some unlikely aid from Fraser through the use of Delmore's bardic inspiration. On the next round, however, due to some unfortunate dice rolls, the party finds their legs stuck in the ice. They have been caught in a trap set by the Frost Wraith. Unsure how to react, the ice begins to creep up the torsos of the party members. If Fraser is in costume, turn to page 16. Otherwise, turn to page 19.
Oh, he is in costume.
Right.
Frustrated, Fraser sits back in his ornate chair at the table while Niles continues ad nauseum describing how the party is slowly becoming encased in ice. Feeling something push against his pant leg, Fraser reaches into the costume's pocket and finds a deck of cards. Upon revealing the deck, William calls out to him, "Delmore, you sod, you've been holding out on us." "What? Oh, the cards? Well, I suppose we could play since Niles has us trapped and we're probably going to be dead soon anyway." "No, Delmore, the deck of many things. What fortune! Quick, draw a card. It could be our last hope."
What is he talking about?
So in Dungeons and Dragons, there's there's an item called the deck of many things.
So you can just bring a deck of cards and it'll be like...
No, normally you would find it over the course of the game.
Okay, so he's just assuming.
Right. The other party members shout in agreement. Confused, Fraser pulls a card out of the box and flips it over. As he does, Niles seems to be flipping through a guide, waiting to hear the result. "The King of Hearts," says Fraser. "Quick," yells Caprica. "You must try to persuade the Frost Wraith to let us go."
Oh, he's a bard, so he's going to be extra sexy.
Fraser looks to Niles, confused, but Niles nods his head in confirmation. "Please let us go," Fraser says while shrugging. "Well, you certainly won't get any inspiration bonus for that attempt, but go ahead and roll for persuasion," Niles says while looking over his notes. Fraser rolls a 17, high enough to persuade the Frost Wraith. The ice begins to recede from the party. Niles describes what happens next. As the ice pulls away, the Frost Wraith becomes ephemeral in form, moving around the room from column to column before returning to the center. The floor begins to glow in a dim light as the Frost Wraith solidifies in the form of a ghastly, pale woman with long, raven black hair.
Ooh.
Delmore recognizes her feature as though she's from another life. She speaks. "Who dares disturb the lair of the Ice Witch Lilith?" Fraser has grown ashen. Then as Niles' gaze meets his own, he begins to turn a deep crimson.
Oh, so Lilith was Fraser's first wife, and
Okay.
and so he's put her in. Nobody likes her.
I don't
Niles.
know if I remember her.
She's in Cheers as well.
She's just really severe.
Yeah.
Is she... Wait. I mean, where I am in Cheers, I've only seen Frasier one time.
Oh, okay.
So,
You probably haven't met her.
okay.
Niles, how dare you bring my ex-wife into this? Sorry, Megan, that's a
Yes,
spoiler.
yeah.
What?
I never heard it before.
Fraser explodes and escorts Niles out of the room by his arm.
Oh, he explodes. Oh my god. That's pretty serious.
The man in the glasses, the player known as Caprica, pipes up once Fraser and Niles have left. "Now I recognize his voice. That's Dr. Crane from the radio, isn't it? Wow, I can't believe I get to play with a celebrity, even if he was suspended recently." "Suspended?" says William.
Oh, good. Finally, we get to find out what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, He got suspended because his ex-wife called in to correct his diagnosis of a patient.
Ooh.
Apparently, it got pretty heated until Frasier snapped and called her a raging ice bitch. The show went dead for a few minutes, then they switched to the Best of Crane for the rest of the day. He hasn't been back on since.
Dang.
Just as he finished relaying the story to William, Niles comes shuffling back by the table. In a hurried tone, he calls out to the remaining players. Well, guys, we'll have to continue our game another night. Thanks for letting me tell my tale. Niles then sprints out of the room towards the exit, with Frasier close behind, cursing his name. The end.
Dang. Niles is a sneaky little witch. Amazing.
So that's
tale.
my story.
I'm
Yay.
so happy that you wrote a Frasier flavored story.
I hope the guy that did the artwork hears it and
Yeah. Well, see if he has a Twitter or something and,
He has
and
a
tweet
Twitter.
him
He has
from at StrangePathsPod on
Right.
Twitter.
Or we could email him from strangepathspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, maybe he'll get it.
or
And maybe he'll get it.
I could email him something sexual or strange at bozosglowglobes@gmail.com.
Yeah, kind of capture his attention.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, thank you for the tale. I loved it. I'm going to read it to myself every night. It's great.
Yes. I'm going to read it to
Frasier.
myself every night, too.
Ooh.
I'm going to read it aloud and try to do the same accents and everything.
No, please
But
don't.
it won't be the same because I'll be good at it. So
Right. I don't know why I keep putting accents into my stories because I'm clearly not good at them.
maybe you should go with like stereotypes, but like Valley Girl, not like race.
Right.
I'll consider that.
Yeah, speaking of Bozo's Glow Globes, we do have a question from Robin. Ooh, she's back.
Oh, she remembered
She's
us.
back. It's
Guess who's
titled
back?
Macaulay Culkin. And it says,
All right.
WTF is going on with him anyway? Have you seen this? And she sends a link. Have you seen that he made a video and a website dedicated to him drawing bunny ears while wearing bunny ears? This is fully the weirdest thing. Why? Well, I've not seen this, Robin. And I don't know why, but it just seems like a lot of, child actor celebs just go off the deep end. Or maybe they have so much cash still that they can do whatever they want. Probably had a lot of horrible experiences filming things, as we all know now.
Yeah,
Ow.
everybody's coming out and saying everybody's got touched on.
Poor
Yeah.
Corey Feldman. He makes me feel the worst. He is the most freakish.
Yeah, he does because he's clearly a broken man.
What is it?
I mean-
Corey's Angels or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
the worst thing I've ever seen. So,
Yep.
Well, I might have to check out this bunny ears thing. It's www.bunnyears.com.
How did he get that?
I don't know.
I'm shocked
guess-
that wasn't taken.
Yeah, me
He could
too.
have bought the domain off of
That's
someone
true.
who was sitting on it.
Maybe.
And if he was able to do that, then, I think that partially explains why he's doing this, because he can.
Right.
Yeah.
See, getting abandoned at home is not so bad.
Yeah. My God, poor Macaulay.
Ugh.
But also, I feel like he's been doing better lately.
I have
he
no
stopped
idea.
being all wraith-like he was a few years ago. He's like normalish now.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, he did have a weird, drowned, anorexic rat look going
Yeah,
on.
he just looked. Yeah, it's scary. But I'm proud of him. He's made some strides.
Yeah, maybe bunny ears have helped him to feel secure again and
Yeah.
move
It's
on.
like, as long as I got my ears on, I can do anything.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out, Robin, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at it for hours right after this. Get back to
You
you.
should tweet.
That's my only email I have.
All right.
Nice, nice, nice.
Well, I guess until next time.
Yeah, thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so happy. So good.
Stay
See you later.
strange. Bye.